Imagine a speech so long it takes days to deliver. A speech from one person that literally becomes the founding story of a nation. Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. The Nutuk, the monumental address by Mustafa Kemal Atatürk that shaped modern Turkey. So just how long are we talking? 36 and a half hours. And hey, as we get into the details, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on that notification bell. It really helps a lot. The information in this video has been compiled from open sources, and I thank you for the support. Okay, back to it. 36 and a half hours. That is not a typo. We're talking about 6 straight days in October 1927 when Ataturk stood up and delivered this epic account of a revolution, a war, and the birth of a brand new republic. And how did this epic begin? With this deceptively simple sentence. But this wasn't just the beginning of a speech. It was the first line of the official story of a nation's rebirth. It all starts from that one moment, his first step back on Anatolian soil to kick off the struggle for independence. But to really get it, you have to understand how this thing was created. We're in mid-1927, and Mustafa Kemal isn't in the best of health. He basically locks himself away in the Chankay mansion, and his study, it just transforms into this massive archive. I mean, just imagine it. Piles and piles of telegrams, maps everywhere. He was driven by this idea that writing history is as important as making it. So he sat there, meticulously going over every single decision, every battle, creating this incredibly detailed first-hand account of the revolution. So the story he lays out is really a war on two fronts. It's not just about what's happening on the battlefield with guns and soldiers. No, there's this whole other war being fought at the negotiation table, a battle of wits and wills against foreign powers and, believe it or not, a rival Turkish government right there at home. And this slide, this perfectly captures that internal conflict. Picture this. It's the London Conference in 1921, and there are 2 Turkish delegations. You've got the old Istanbul government, basically puppets of the occupying allies, totally ready to sign away everything. And then you have the new nationalist government from Ankara, led by Atatürk. They send their own people, and their message is crystal clear, absolutely non-negotiable. We want total independence, period. All right, so while the politicians are arguing in London, let's shift our focus to the battlefield. Because it's here that the new nation's legitimacy is being forged, literally, in blood and fire. Every victory, like the Second Battle of Inonu, wasn't just about gaining territory. It was a massive statement to the world, shouting, "We, the Ankara government, are the real authority here." And then you get to this quote. This was a complete game changer. It came during the Battle of Sakarya. The Greek army is dangerously close to Ankara, and things are looking grim, really desperate. So what does Ataturk do? He throws out the old rulebook of trench warfare. He basically says, there is no line of defense. The entire country is our defense. He ordered his troops that if they had to fall back, they should just reform a new front wherever they stood. This kind of fluid, relentless defense was something the Greeks just weren't prepared for. And it worked. It completely broke their advance. So they're fighting off foreign invaders, right? But what the Nutuk makes so clear is that at the exact same time, there was another war happening, an internal one. A brutal political battle to tear down a 600-year-old empire and somehow build a brand new country from the rubble. So think about it. How on earth do you legally get rid of a dynasty that's been around for 600 years? Well, Ataturk's plan was nothing short of a political masterstroke. He realized Ottoman power rested on 2 pillars: the Sultan, who was the political ruler, and the Caliph, the religious leader of Sunni Muslims. His genius was to separate them. He said, let's get rid of the political role of the Sultan, but we'll keep the caliphate for now to keep the conservatives calm. It was brilliant. This move allowed him to abolish the monarchy as a political power, argue that sovereignty was already with the people, and ram the law through a very, very nervous assembly. But it wasn't easy. The committee in charge got cold feet. They were terrified of abolishing the Sultanate. And that's when Ataturk laid down this chilling ultimatum. He basically told them, look, sovereignty isn't something we're debating here. The nation took it by force. This is happening. The subtext was unmistakable. Get with the program or history will run you over. And guess what? The committee passed the proposal almost immediately. And then, just a couple of weeks later, the final nail was hammered into the coffin of the Ottoman Empire. The last sultan, Vahdettin, pretty much sealed his own fate. He fled Istanbul on a British warship. By running away with the enemy, he was seen as a traitor who abandoned his country. That single act completely destroyed any remaining legitimacy he had and solidified the power of the Grand National Assembly in Ankara once and for all.
Okay, so the old regime is gone. The internal political battle is won. Now the stage is set for the grand finale. The last act, a final, crushing military victory to secure Turkey's future and clear the path for the Republic. This was the Great Offensive, launched in August 1922. It was a massive surprise attack, planned down to the last detail in total secrecy. The Turkish army just punched right through the enemy lines, surrounded the main Greek force, and within days, literally days, they had pushed the occupying army right out of Anatolia. For good. Now, to really grasp how huge this victory was, you need to see what they were fighting against. Just look at the Treaty of Sèvres from 1920. It wasn't a treaty, it was a death sentence for the country. It chopped up Anatolia, gave foreign powers control over huge areas, handed over the country's finances, and gutted the military. It basically turned Turkey into a powerless colony. Okay, now look at the contrast. After the military victory, they go back to the negotiating table and get the Treaty of Lausanne in 1923. This document literally tears up Sèvres and throws it in the trash. It establishes the borders of modern Turkey we know today. It gets rid of all foreign financial and legal control. And most importantly, it confirms Turkey's complete, unconditional sovereignty. It was an absolute triumph. So military victory is secured. Diplomatic victory is secured. Now for the final piece of the puzzle. There's a political mess in Ankara. They can't agree on a new cabinet. Atatürk sees this as the perfect opportunity. He steps in and says, I've got a simple solution. Let's just declare Turkey a republic. Then we'll have a president, and the president can appoint a prime minister. Problem solved. And just like that, the principle that the nation is sovereign was officially written into law. I mean, just look at this timeline. The speed of it all is just mind-blowing. Think about it. In the span of a little over a year, you go from winning a war that's been raging for years to abolishing a monarchy that's been around for 6 centuries, to getting the whole world to recognize you as a sovereign nation, and then founding a brand new republic. It's just an absolutely breathtaking pace of change. But here's the thing. After spending 36 hours meticulously detailing the past, Atatürk doesn't end his speech there. He doesn't close the book by looking backward. Instead, in the final moments, he pivots and turns his focus squarely on the future. You can feel the entire mood of the speech shift. It stops being a historical record and becomes this incredibly powerful, deeply emotional message to all the generations that would follow. See, he wasn't just wrapping up a speech, he was handing over a sacred trust, a legacy. And this final part, which is now famous as the Address to the Youth, has become the single most important and lasting piece of the whole thing. And in this amazing passage, people who were there said his voice was trembling with emotion. He speaks directly to the young people of Turkey. He gives them a warning. He says, look, in the future, you're going to face enemies from outside and traitors from inside. A day might come when everything seems hopeless. But he tells them, even then, their one and only duty is to save the Republic. And then he gives them this unforgettable line, telling them the strength they'll need is already inside them, in the noble blood in your veins. It's so much more than an ending. It became a cornerstone of Turkish identity, a secret promise passed from one generation to the next. So when you put it all together, the Nutuk is so much more than just a history book, right? It's a great reckoning with the past, for sure. But by laying out every single challenge, betrayal, and victory, Atatürk created this political roadmap. It's a guide for the future and, maybe most importantly, an early warning system against all the dangers he knew could one day threaten the Republic again. And that really leaves us with a big question to think about, doesn't it? What is the role of history? Is it just a collection of stories about what happened way back when? Or is it something more, a blueprint, a warning, a guide for securing the future? For Atatürk, the answer was obvious. But what about for us? What do you think?